Yeah, thank you for sticking around. We will just start now. Um, Thanks you for joining again. My name is Shay, and this is Blender 101, an introduction to Blender. All right. So, this here is how this call will go. I'll do the first introductions. I'll give you a rundown of like preamble to the story, like a prologue, and after which I would go into Blender. By now, I would expect that you have Blender downloaded. 4.4.3 is the most recent version, and well, any version you're on doesn't matter so far it's in the 4 series. Um, so I would introduce you to Blender or introduce Blender to you, give you some starting notes. We'll get into the interface, introduce ourselves to how the app works. Also, we'll try out some simple modeling, right? Then would texture it, which is adding the materials and lighting, and then would add a simple animation and then render and wrap up. After which I'll be able to take your questions and answer. Please, within the course of this call, it is advisable that we are all on mute because the call is being recorded, so that the call can make some sense for people after now. So thank you very much. All right. Akoni has agreed to be the mod for this call, so I expect that he'll be adding people to the call. He'll be adding people to the call, even though I just did now, but we'll see how that goes. So my name is Shay. I'm primarily a product designer. I work with RiseVest. Um, we basically operate, try to provide investments, uh, the top performing investments in the world to Africans. And on the side, I picked up Blender, as most people might know. Right now, it seems to be what I'm primarily known for. And my journey with Blender has been an interesting one because for some time, most recently, since 2023, I think I picked it up again. But before now, I've always been um, a visual designer, which meant that I needed to make use of other tools like After Effects, Illustrator. Even that I remember using CorelDRAW for graphic design. And Blender is just one of those tools I added to my stack. And sometime in 2023, when I needed to venture into something else, that excitement was running low. So I picked up Blender again. And since then, it's um, been an amazing journey with it. So, um, as you may have known, I have a lot of works put out there, a lot of Blender works put out there, and it kind of gives me this qualification to help people out. Right now, with a whole lot of practice, I've been able to get myself acquainted with the product, and I'll tell you for free right now that sometimes I go through the tool and I discover new things every time. That should tell you that you necessarily don't have to learn everything at once. You basically have to concentrate on what you want to achieve. So I have at the end of this class, maybe when you are familiar with the tool and you want to try out something, I have free Blender files on Gumroad. You can grab them there. And if you want to grab the paid ones, for the sake of this class, we have um, discount code B101 and should get you 50%. But please, if you can afford that, please, the free ones are even as good as the paid ones. You can grab those instead. The point here is to get you familiar with the tool and play around it. Um, Blender is a free 3D open source tool, which means that it's you can own it, You don't have to pay license fee, and you don't have to crack the software before you can use it. And it's been used for different purposes like modeling, sculpting, animation, texturing and shading, lighting, rendering. Um, as you could see in the beginning, I played some reels with people, um, artists from around the world, and they used it for very amazing things. This should inspire you to show you what can be done with it. And that also made me, I put out a tweet this week that I believe that people shouldn't have to pay, or go deep into their pocket, or even have to crack software to learn creative software. I believe that there are some form of software that should be free for people. And because Blender does that, one of my ways of supporting it is to put out put out resources that help people learn the tool. So get into Blender right now, and I hope that you'd be able to pick out some things from this. Please, at the end of my explanation, out, give time for questions, and you can drop them. I can use the mod, and you can read those questions out to us, and we'll try to answer the question as much as we can. So get your tool ready. So I believe everyone can see my screen now. I'm sharing Blender 4.4 screen. It's possible that you may see a pop-up before you actually see it. So you might see a splash screen like this before you actually see the main thing, but you're fine. Depending on how long you've installed it, if you just installed it, you probably get a prompt asking you if you want to use some settings. Feel free to just accept the default settings and just click around, and this is where you get to. Now, the first thing anyone might have mentioned is that the UI looks very, very complex, especially when you put into account items like layout, modeling, shading, UV editing, texture paint, all of these things. You begin to ask yourself, how do I find my way around this thing? So here's the first thing I'll tell you. Like I mentioned before, you don't need to know what each and every one of these things do. All of these sections, there's a lot of them. Blender is a tool that's built by hundreds, if not thousands, of developers all around the world, and so you don't expect to actually know everything. I myself go around the tool, once in a while, not knowing what some things do. And so far, you have a goal in mind. If you have a goal in mind, you'd find it easy to navigate around the app because you know what you want and how you get it. But let's start with our interface. It looks very complex. So the first thing I see here is this cube, right? And this is a 3D space. And quickly to acquaint you with the 3D, what that three means. Three means the three dimension, the three different axes. We have the X. The X is the red line, right? The Y is the yellow line. And the Z is the blue line. By default, it's not usually activated until you try to move something around, but we'll get to it. And for the sake of this call and beginners, I'll try to go as slow as possible, please. If you have some experience with it and you're just looking to brush up, please don't mind the pacing because it's important that everybody understands it. So 3 dimension, the X, the Y, and the Z. Um, the X is the red one, the red line. The Y is the blue one, and the Z is the Y is the green one, and the Z is the blue one. The blue one isn't usually activated up and down, right? So we are in this interface. One thing I would like to tell you is that you can always minimize this UI. UI is user interface. And how do I do that? Because Blender operates on the tiling system, the tiling UI system, you can always remove things that you don't want. If you think that's necessary. For example, I see all of these things. They are not necessarily different features. They are just arranging an arrangement of features in a different way. And to show you that I can right click on this and I can delete. You know, you can delete if you have access to, if you are using Blender right now, you can try deleting, and you see that as you delete them, the UI is becoming, this top part is becoming smaller. When once you restart this file, you'll be able to um, bring back everything if you want it. Now we've simplified this UI, right? We have just layout. Now what's the next thing? Next thing we ask ourselves is what else do we need here? Um, we'll start from this part. Now this is the outliner, right? For each and every cell in this place, this is a whole block, right? We can shrink it, you can grow it. Please try playing around with the app, on your device. You can shrink it, you can grow it, because the tiling system, right? I'm shrinking this part and I'm growing this part. Now for each and every box, for each and every cell, you can always change the content. I can make every one of these parts here be this 3D viewport. So as you can see, I already did that here. So what I'm trying to say is that you can always, because it's a tiling system, you can change, everything. You can change whatever you want. I'm going to start minimizing this. And how do you do that? Your mouse, you take your mouse, your cursor, put it in between of the tiles. You right click on it, and you see these options here: vertical split, horizontal split, join up, and join down. Or you can say you can swap the areas. Now, what does this mean? I take my mouse there again and I right click on it. Vertical split means that I want to divide this into two. I want to divide this whole cell into two. If I click on it, you can see I have a preview of how divided I want the cells to be. I can right click and cancel it, right? I'm resizing. I right click on this midpoint and I see horizontal splits. If vertical is up to down, horizontal is left to right. So it means that I'm trying to divide them this way. I don't want that, so I'll just right click. I right click again on that same area and I join up. Join up means that you want to merge these areas together. So if I'm joining up, I'm merging this part to this part. So if I say join up, I'm joining up. Now we have just this part, right? We have just this part. And then we can go through all of this. We'll get to what these things do in the second. And what I'd like to tell you is that, like I mentioned, you necessarily don't have to know everything. You only have to relate it to what you will be doing. So we'll click on this part and just remove this material. Don't worry about that. And now you can see the UI is getting simpler, right? So like I mentioned, we have some form of tiling UI here, so we can always divide. I have horizontal split. I've splitted this part area. So try doing the same thing on your own end, and let's see how we fare doing that. If you have any questions trying to do that, please let me know. What we are trying to achieve here is trying to familiarize ourselves with the UI to know that, okay, these things are changeable. We can remove them. We can add more to them. Right. So I'll return it to the original view. I mean, at least a bit original to the view, right? And I'll start explaining what each and every of these section are. So first of all, this is the 3D viewport. The 3D viewport is where you majorly be doing everything you want to do. The 3D viewport is where you create what you want to create. And I'd like to tell you that when you're working in 3D, I would advise you to think more like a builder and a photographer, and less. I mean, you're still a designer, but when you are here, think of yourself as a photographer, because while you have your object, which is this cube, it could be anything, right? We have light here to light this thing. The same way photographer will need a light to light up a scene. So we have this light here. And the photographer is never known without their camera. So you have this camera here. So this camera is how you would take a picture, so to speak, of what you are doing, right? This camera is how you take a picture, and in 3D we call this rendering. So when you hear someone say, "Oh, I have this 3D render," it means they've taken a picture of what they have in the 3D viewport, because you can't necessarily show people what you've done. You can't necessarily show people what you see without the camera. So we have a camera here, which is how you take the picture. You have the light, which is, how you light up this scene. And then you have the main object, which we have here. All of these things happen in the 3D viewport. And like I mentioned, we can always change how this UI looks by going to this top left corner. You're able to change each and every one of them here, right? So this is the 3D viewport. You always see it at the first. If you come here to top left, 3D viewport, right? Close it. Come here to top left. Always note the top left of the cell. I click on it and I see 3D viewport here. So that's where, majority of your action will happen. So we've explained that. We'll come back to 3D viewport because that's majority of what we'll do here. Now, by default, you have this thing here. It's called the outliner. And what's the outliner? If you use any design, we have a layering system, right? We have a layer system. Like is it layer one? I want to name my layers. This is basically what that is. The outliner is like a list of all the objects you have in the scene, right? And what's the scene? This is a whole scene here. Like I mentioned, you're a photographer, you're taking video, you're taking pictures. You have a scene, you put the scene together. As simple as this is, you can call this a scene. So this outliner here, right, is what lists out what you have in the scene. As you can see, what's this? This is the cube, and it's highlighted here. You can rename items here. I can call this a cone. It's not a cone, but I'll call it a cone. This is my camera, right? I can change the name by double clicking on this. I can change the name of the camera to something else. I can call it UI, right? And by default, it's arranged alphabetically. You can change that if you want. That's where you see all of this here, sort alphabetically. But let's keep to the simple part. So this is the outliner. It lists out the object for you. So the camera, the lights, and the objects. As I click on them, you can see they are all they are all being highlighted. Now let's come down here. This is called the properties panel, right? This is the properties panel. And what do you notice when I click on any one of these things? It starts changing because each and every of these objects have different properties. Your camera has a different property. Your cube, I call it cone here, has a different property, and your light has a different property. Just like in the natural world, light, what are the properties of your light? It can be the color of the light or the brightness of the light. We will find them here. So your camera, your light, and your cube have different properties. So we'll get to the properties panel when we start working on some things here. So now, I've explained what these different areas are. Now, if you check the bottom part, this long strip of timeline. This is called the timeline. This is where you play animations. If you have any animation in the scene, this is where that happens. So, like I mentioned, you can always change what exists in this place. If you don't want to see it as well, you can just, join down and remove it. I've removed mine, right? You can always do that. So I've removed mine to keep my UI simple. So if you open Blender and sometime and you feel like this UI is clumsy, you can always remove things that you don't want. Now let's come back to the 3D viewports. These are the major cells that we'll try to use right now. In Blender, if you are using the mouse, I'm using the mouse here. I'm using the mouse, right? And to move around, I press down on my middle mouse button and I can rotate this scene. I can move around this object, I can rotate them around. I'm not moving the objects, I'm just moving where I am on this scene. So your middle mouse button does that for you, right? Now, I have also provided some key casts on the left hand side. So you see what I'm pressing. I'm on a Mac, I'm on a MacBook, I'm on a Mac OS device, right? So if I press command, if you're on Windows, it's control, right? If I press option, it's alt on Windows. and shift is the same thing, right? So command on Mac is control on Windows, option is alt on Windows, and shift remains the same thing. There's also control there, but um, not that much. So we are moving around with the middle mouse button. If you scroll on that middle mouse button, sorry, if you scroll on that middle mouse button, you are able to zoom in and zoom out. So you can try that on your scene. So you can try the two now. I move around the scene and move closer to the cube by zooming in or zooming out. Right. Now, as you try that, if you want to if you want to select an object, you do left clicking. You left click on an object and it turns to orange and you can see it's active. So when an object is active, you can do different things to it. I have this light here, I've clicked on it, it's orange, it means it's active. This is my camera, I click on it, it's active. It's showing orange and it's also highlighted in the outliner. I click on my cube, it's also active, right? Now what can we do to an object? First things first, you can always move your object. Press G on your keyboard, and you're able to grab it. You're able to grab it. As you can see, I'm moving this cube about in the scene. If you don't want to move it to the new place, your new position, you can right click and it returns to the original position. So let's try that again. G to grab. I move it around. If I want to move it to a new place, I just left click. So you can see the new position now. It's over there. It was over here before. Let me undo it. It was over here before. I press G on my keyboard, as you can see. I can move it here. And if I don't want to move it, if I don't want to accept the new position, I can right click on that. While it's still active, this way, right click and it's going to return to the original position. So that's how you move. Now, how do you move across this axis? Like I mentioned, 3 dimensions, Z, Y, and X, or X, Y, and Z. X is the red one, this red line. Y is the green one. And Z or Z is the one you can't see until you click on it. So how do you do that? So when you press G and you are still active this way, you can press any of the axes you want to move it on. So I have G pressed. I can press X to move it on the X axis. So what that means is going to move only along that X axis, right? So imagine you want to do something like a car moving on a straight line. It means you're going to go on this one axis, right? If I press G and I press Y, I'm moving on the Y axis. You can try it out on your end. Right click because I don't want to change the position. I press G and I press Z. I'm moving it on the Z axis, as you can see. Yeah. Now you can try it out on your end. GX, right click, GY, or you can even move it to a new position, So while you're trying that, let's see, I'm moving around my scene with my middle mouse button, right? I'm zooming in with my middle mouse button and I can grab the object, move it around, put it in a new place. Can also grab it, press on press X, Y, or Z on my keyboard. I'm pressing Y now, so I can move it on that Y axis. So I'm going to undo what I've done. I'm going to undo what I've done, so we retain the original position. Now, one thing you can also do on objects is to rotate that object. To rotate, you press R on your keyboard, and you can see it's rotating. It's rotating. If you don't want to, like I mentioned, if you don't want to accept any of the changes you've done to your object while it's still active, you can press right click. You can right click on your mouse, and it's going to return or reset to the original position. So R here, I'm rotating it. You can try it as much as you want. I don't want the new position. I right click on it. I want the new position. I accept it by pressing the left, right. I left click on my mouse. I undo what I have done to return to the original position. Control Z to undo. I'm rotating. Now you can also rotate on one axis. Look at this. You can also rotate on one axis. So if I press R, the same way you press the axis right after you press your action, that's what you do here. So I press R and I press X, and you can see I'm rotating it only on that X axis. You can see it's moving only on that axis, right? Cancel that. Press R, press Y, only on that axis. Right click because I don't want that. You know, you can keep changing them. This is Z, this is X, this is Y, X, Y, Z, X, Y, and Z. All right. So we kind of know how to grab with G, right? G to grab, and you press the axis next to it. After that, to move it on that axis, you right click if you don't want it, or if you want it, you left click. And we also know how to rotate. You can Control Z to or Command Z to undo what you've done and reset the original position. Now we've known that. Now there's also something you can do to an object. Now this cube, I can't really do much to it. I can't change how it looks. I can't change the form of it. Right? It's just a cube. I'm clicking on it and nothing's happening to it. And how do I basically edit my objects? That's why we have edit mode in Blender. You can come to the top left here. If you come to the top left here, you see object mode. And object mode, you click on object mode and you can see edit mode. Once again, let's come again. We click on an object mode on top left in the 3D viewport. I click on that and I get edit mode. I can change that, and now the orange seems to be fuller now. Less opaque, less transparent. It's even more, it covers most part now because we're in edit mode. Now what this means is that you can change something about it. You can deform it. You can, now I'm moving this like this, try it out. You can always undo what you've done. Don't worry about that. Always feel free to try it out. So you can see I've deformed this cube here. I would undo what I've done here because I want my cube perfect. So this is where you get to work on your objects. Like think of yourself as a builder or as a sculptor. You kind of form objects to what you want. So this is where you get them done. The edit mode. You can come back here to change this object mode. Now it has a shortcut, and you can get it by pressing tab. Tab. When you press a tab, you go into object mode, and you press tab to leave the edit mode. So tab again, object, edit, object. When I say object, I mean object mode and edit mode. So I'm trying it out now. You can also try it out. And if you can see my screencast, I'm pressing tab on my keyboard. So tab, 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 tab. Now, all right. So just as you can move the objects, there are certain things about this object that you notice. There are points and there are lines. And what are they called? So these points are called vertices. Or you can say one can be called a vertex. So I'm moving one vertex around now. Right. This object has how many vertex? Let's count together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 vertices would make up this cube. And then in object mode, in edit mode, we have vertices. These are vertices, right? These points. And then we also have something else. We have edges. Edges are the lines you see here. So you can change between vertex, the lines, which are the edges, or the faces. Now let's start again. Let's track back a bit. So this is object mode, right? We want to change something about this cube. By the way, I'm zooming in with my middle mouse button. We go to edit mode. Now inside edit mode, we have three other types of, three other ways you can change the object. Either change the vertices. These are the points. This point you see here, these points here, try grabbing on them. You click on them and press G and you can grab them. The lines, which are the edges, right? And the faces. The faces, we select only the faces. So these are faces. This object has 6 faces: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. How many edges does it have? Does this object have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So this cube has 12 edges. These are the lines.
Hello?
All right.
Shay?
Hello. Yeah.
Yes. Sorry, do you want to take the questions after the class or during the class?
Okay, let's take some questions now.
Okay. So also the screencast is not visible, so you might want to check that.
Oh, that's crazy. I may have to present okay.
And now we have a few questions. So do you want to take them now while you're doing that?
Yeah, let me know if this is visible now.
Okay, it's visible now.
All
Uh,
right.
so one question from Michael Oluwole, what are the PC requirements to be able to run Blender effectively? For context, he uses a Dell Core i7, 8th generation, Full HD graphics. He's asking if he needs a graphics card for his laptop.
Um, I'm using an M1 MacBook, so I probably won't be able to speak on Windows devices right now. But Blender has a requirement document online that you can go to and check against that. Check your devices. But I don't think you need a graphics card. If it's what I'm thinking, so basically just operate it. Um, for generally also, I always avoid trying to put so much into something I'm just starting out. I like going gradually. But if you go on to blender.org forward slash requirements, I think you'll be able to get proper spec sheets for your device.
All right. Okay, Michael, I hope that answers your question. Felix Ayola is asking about people that don't have a mouse. What should they
Okay.
use?
Okay. All right. People who don't know, I don't design often without a mouse, but I'll try helping out here. So the equivalent of pressing down my middle mouse button and moving around, I use a Mac, by the way. So I think Windows and Mac trackpads operate differently. So, but on my Mac, when I put my two fingers on the trackpad and I move around, I'm able to move. That's the same movement as pressing on my middle mouse button. Pardon me. So my trackpad, my two fingers, my index finger and my middle finger, I move them around. That way I can move. And I think working on the trackpad is going to feel more fluid because on Mac, as you can rotate this, I don't think I can do this on my mouse, but I can see it's kind of very seamless. And if I press down on command or control, I think on Windows, and I use the same two fingers to scroll up and scroll down, I'm able to zoom in and zoom out of my 3D viewport, right? Like I mentioned, the same two fingers without any keys pressed would move you around the scene like this. I'm using my trackpad now, but if you press down command, you're able to zoom out and zoom in. And if you press on hold down shift, as you can see on my screencast, hold down shift and you use your two fingers, you're able to pan around. This movement is called panning. So I'm moving here, I'm panning right, I'm panning left, I'm panning right, like this. So I think with that movement, you should be able to get yourself familiar with the tool. So I'm using my two fingers right now, zoom in, right, zooming out, without anything pressed. As you can see, the screencast is not showing anything, so it means I'm not pressing anything. And we have this here. I hope that was able to answer your question.
All right, those are all the questions for now.
All
I'm
right, thank you.
currently
So we'll get
looking
on
at
now.
trying to enter the class now, so can continue.
All right, thank you. So we stopped at the edit mode, getting to edit mode and getting out of edit mode. So how do you do that? You press tab. I'm sorry the screencast wasn't showing, but now it's showing. So you see tab, 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 and I can select vertices, these dots here, edges, these lines here. You can, move around and select even the ones under, the ones at the top. Though, like I mentioned, is like think of yourself as a photographer. So yeah, you're moving around this thing. I can go under it and select things around it. I'm a builder. This is my foundation. I'm a builder and a photographer at the same time. So I'm going to my foundation, selecting something there, and right. So you can also select faces. Now, in selecting things, you can press down Shift to select more than one thing. Let's go back to object mode by pressing tab. We're in object mode now. You can also come up here to change it. You can select on one object, right? Select an object, hold down Shift, select the other one, and you are selecting multiple objects together. If you hold down Shift, you can select multiple objects, right? You can also use it to deselect the object. So I click on one object, I hold down Shift, I click on the next, right? All right. So now we've known how to, we are kind of aware on what we need to do when we need to grab by pressing G. G will grab your object. To grab it on an axis, you press the axis after it and pressing X. If you don't want the new position, you right click on it. You press G, right? And you press R to rotate, and your axis next to it to rotate it on that axis. And you can also go into edit mode, go in and out. Now you can also scale your objects. Scaling means you want to grow it, you want to make it bigger, or you want to make it smaller. That's scaling. So to scale your object, you can press S on your keyboard. I have S. Now I can scale it. It's growing, getting very large, or you can make it small. Right? You can make it small. Now it's small. This was the original position, the original size. So S is to scale, R is to rotate, G is to grab or to move it. Right? So S to scale, R to rotate, or G to grab. Now with these three things together, you can try out something on your own end. Maybe you move it to this place, you press left to accept it, you rotate it, you press left, and then you scale it. If you try that out, you'd I mean these are very basic movements, but this is literally like the foundation of everything. So I'm moving it here, I rotate it here, and I scale it. I can make it bigger instead. Yeah. Now a very simple trick you can do is after scaling or rotating or moving, you can press a number after it to adjust it by that number. So let's to help us explain that, we need someone to do that for us. And that's going to be this side here. When you look at this viewport, you see this arrow here, it's popping out. It seems there's something inside it. And how do you find out? You click on it to find out. And then we have this whole thing, this whole thing going on, right? I know we try to make the UI simple, so that was why we minimize it. You can always do that later. You can always close it and open it back. I'm doing the same thing here. So I have opened it. Now, location is where you set when you press G, location changes. As you can see, let me undo it again. Notice the number on the right hand side. I press on G and you see that number change, means I've changed the location of this cube. If I press R and I change the rotation, you can see this is changing. Now, I want to undo what I did because I don't want it. Control Z. Now I can rotate on any axis and everything changes. If you rotate on just one axis, right? Let's say you press R and you press Z and you change only on Z, you see I've changed only on Z and that's why Z only changes. I'm going to undo that. If I press S and I grow it, you can see the new size here. It's now 4.7 of the original size. I'll undo that. I don't want that. So same way you can grow, you can grab, you can rotate, you can also scale on an axis. If I want to scale on only on the Y axis, I press S, press Y, and I lengthen and I stretch it, or I can make it taller by pressing Z after pressing S. So think of this when you want to make things like towers. Um, you know, you you can grow it as much as you want. So let's undo that. We don't want that. So you can let's close this back if you want, but this is where you can manipulate things, manipulate values, right? You can change the location here. If you move it here, you can always move it. Put your mouse on this, you see, can get this moved, and you can rotate it on that axis and these things. I want to close it. Yeah. All right. So we are back to this scene now, and we've only been working with cubes, and it gets boring too, right? Um, we want to add something new. But if you want to add something while this is still there, that's fine. But if you want to delete items, you can press X. X will delete your items. So you press X on anything. X, 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 yeah. Like I mentioned, I shift select, I shift click, and I'm selecting multiple. I press X and I can do what? I can delete. When you press X, you get this dialog box and then you can delete it. I haven't selected anything, but when I select it, I delete the light and delete the cube, press X, delete the cube, delete the camera. Can let's add distance later, and that's what we're going to do next. And by the way, just as in other tools, A will help you select everything. So I press A, I can select everything to delete at once. So if you want to clean up your scene, you don't want any of these things anymore, you can press A and X. Well, I want them back, right? I don't want to delete them. So I can move this on the X-axis, move it away from this scene because I want to place something new here. So to add an object, you can come to the top here and see add, or you can press Shift and A to add an object to the scene. And that would introduce us to a foray of a number of objects that we can add to our scene. And I want to show you how thinking like a 3D artist would look like. So we have, I press Shift A and I have all of these things I can add here. In fact, there's so much more you can add. And if time permits us, we'll get to add-ons where you add even more types of objects. But first, see something like mesh here. So you can add a mesh. Now, what are types of mesh you can have? You can add a plane. A plane is just like, it's basically like a plane, just a flat surface. We can add a cube. We have the cube here already, so we don't need that. We can add a circle. A circle isn't just a circle. And thinking like a 3D artist would help you understand that you can use this circle for different things, which is what we're going to do today. Can I add a UV sphere? These are two types of sphere, an echo sphere and a UV sphere. Can I add a cylinder? So if you want to model something like a cup, right? A cylinder will come in very handy for you. We have a cone. If you want to model something like an ice cream cone, the cone will come handy for you. If you want to model a donut, this torus will come in handy for you. So let's start again. You can come here to say add mesh. These are the types of meshes we can add. I can add a plane. This is how a plane looks like. So try on your own and try adding some things. So Shift A, cube. Once you add something, you can move it out. Press G and move it out. So try doing that on your scene and seeing what you come up with. So keep adding a lot of things because we can always delete this thing later. We can always delete them later. So I press G to grab. Right. I add mesh again. I add icosphere. I move it to G. I move it somewhere else. Cone. somewhere else. And I can also add this a monkey here. This the monkey head is called Susan. As you can see on this outliner, it's called Susan here. Now I have all of these things in my scene, right? You don't need them. What do? You press A, right? Or you can drag all over them this way. Right? This is a box select. I can select them, or select the ones, only the ones I want, and delete. So this is what I want to do here. And press X, and I do what? I delete. Yeah, this is the original cube I had here before. I don't want to delete that. So basically, you press Shift A to add, you press X to remove. X like cancel, you press that to remove, and that way you are able to add more objects. So let's come back to our cube. Now, to go into edit mode, you press tab, right? And you can do something to this cube. You can deform it. You can move these things around. We have this cube now. You can easily change this to a boat by dragging this part out, drag on the x-axis, and just look at that. We're already having something, right? A boat on anvil. You already have something here. Now, the same controls you have for objects operates for the edges, for the vertices, or for the faces. I can, if I say I want to build a boat, what do I need? This is closed, right? I can delete this face. And what do I need to do that? I come to face selection mode, click on this, press X. So ask me, forget about the rest of these ones for now. Let's try only vertices, edges, and faces. Don't worry about the rest. I press X. What do I want to delete? I want to delete the face here so that this thing can be open. Now I press faces, and you can see it's open now, right? Let's go back again. Undo. I'm undoing this. I press G to grab this. But if I grab it, it's going to move on every axis. I only want to move on the x-axis. So what I do is I press G and an X, right? It moves there. This other one, so I press G. If I move it around, it's going to move in places I don't want to. So I press X, so it moves on that axis. And I have this boat shape here. And go back out to it to object mode. As you can see now, this is the new shape we have now. Everything that has to do with deformation or adjusting the object or editing the object has to, can be done or is to be done in your edit mode. So now, like I mentioned, I want to delete the top of this. I click on it from the face selection mode. The third one here, press on X, vertices, edges, and faces. Leaving these ones out for now. I select faces because I want to delete the faces here. As you can see, I have an open object now. Right. So let's delete that and add a new cube because we've deformed that. You can always undo if you want, but I want to start from this part again. So um to following me along, I would like us to use some of the um ideas we've gathered so far to build something. And I would go very slowly so that everyone can pick it up. Right. So let's delete this by using X, right? Can add something new, delete, add something new. I don't want it to delete. Now, immediately you add anything, there's something that's not quite obvious that happens. Let's click on this now. There's something on the bottom left corner, just pops up. And it doesn't come up immediately fully, but you have to click on it and see what's saying, right? This is where you can edit some of the properties procedurally. Um, that means that it's non-destructive. Right now, any of the changes we make here is non-destructive. But once you click out of this and you start doing anything to this tool, you can't do it. You can't change anything about it again. Here, immediately I just added this. I can grow it from here, right? Or I can shrink it. I'm going to add another one again. I'm undoing, adding mesh cube. And you can see it comes up here because I clicked on it before, right? 1.8, no, I don't want 1.8, I want just 1 meter, right? Now this is the size I want. So I have it here, right? Now let's build something with that. So I say mesh. I have plane, I have cube, I have circle. I'll select a circle. Now this is a circle, quite all right. But it's telling us here that this circle has 32 vertices. It means if you count this, if you go to edit mode, right? You select on vertices mode, like the vertex selection mode, you can see each and every of these dots is a vertex. And you can see that when you count, if you try counting, if you have the time to count, there will be 32 of them, right? So I want to delete that because I need some changes to it. Now, while you have this here, you can click on this 32 and change it to 8. So let's build out something here. We want to build out a diamond. So you press 8, right? And it changes the number of sides here to 8. I can increase it if I want, or I can just, it adjusts to the number of the number you enter there. So I'll press 8, right? I'm in edit mode, by the way, but I've exited it. So I go into edit mode, object mode, edit mode, object mode. Once you're in edit mode, you see some things like this. I'm in edit mode. I want to change this. There's also one type of movement that shouldn't that's very important, which is extrusion. Extrusion is a way of adding more parts to your object, right? Adding more parts to your object. So when I press E, I extrude up and down. I can extrude, like I mentioned. Once you press that once you press that key press, you would have your axis. What axis do I want you to go on? Let's start again. Um, Akoni, please give me a sec. I'll be right back to get something done.
All right. In the meantime, if you guys have any questions, please put it in the comments in the chat.
Yeah, we're here.
Yes, we are.
All right. So let's go back a step again. We wanted to add a circle, right? The circle has a lot. You can always change the face, but we want 8 sides only. So we press 8, enter, and then we are here. We want to edit it. You press tab to go to edit mode. And I mentioned something about extrusion. E to extrude. To extrude means you want to add more parts to it. You want to grow it. You want to grow a part from the old parts you currently have. You press E, and I want to grow it to the top. So I press Z. And as you can see, I'm growing it to the top. You can always extrude to whichever angle you want, extrude like this. But because of what we want to build, we'll try going only from the top, from the bottom to top. So I press E and Z, right? And when you're fine with what you have, you press your left mouse button. What else can we do? We can scale, which is S. I mentioned before. Can scale it up or scale it down, right? So we want to build a diamond. The top of a diamond would typically be smaller. So what do? We press S to scale it down, right? That's done. Press left to accept because that's what you want. So you can move around and see what you've done so far, right? Now, if you press on which is option, which is option on Windows, and press Shift, you can select everything. And this is called a loop because it goes around, it goes around. You can select every of this side, press Shift and press S, and Shift and Alt, which is option on Mac. So I'm doing that right now, and I'm selecting I'm selecting everything at the top here. So if you mistakenly selected something else and oh you want how do I select everything? Instead of selecting everything one by one, what you can do is, you know, press shift down, press down shift and alt, which is option. Check my screencast and I press my left mouse button and I select everything this way, everything at the top. Now you can do something to this. What can you do? You can scale it S, you can grab it G, you can rotate it right R, and you can extrude it. These are the movements, these are the primary movements, guys. So we want to build the top of the diamond, and what can we do? You can still extrude, but we're extruding to the top. We want to close it. We don't want it to. We don't want the extrusion to go to the top. What do we do? You can combine any of these things together to get what you want. So let's undo. You press E, right? You press E and you press S to scale. So when you press E and S together, this is the kind of movement you should have. That way you can close this top. As you can see, I'm coming together and I'm closing it. Right. So that E and S. So when I get to this place, I stop, left click. Right. Now I want to close this face as well. Right. There's another way to close it, and you can do that by just pressing F. But if you want to go, if you want to know where you find it, right, this is where you find it. You press face here at the top here and fill. It's going to fill it this way. But if you press F, it's going to fill this in a clean way, right? So we have this here. So let's go back a bit. So what did we do? We add this circle with 8 sides, right? We had this circle with 8 sides. We selected everything. We extruded it up on the z-axis, E and Z. We scaled it down, right? We scaled it down. And then we extruded and scaled. So we pressed E and we pressed S to close it here. And we pressed F to close the loop. I hope we've all been following so far. I would appreciate if um, comments are dropped or Akoni gets reviews from you guys so we know we're on the right track.
Yes, guys, please leave your comments and your reviews. Let's know how the experience is. So that I'm not seeing any comments. Seems people are understanding the tutorial. Yeah, people are saying it's
All
easy
right.
to follow.
All right. Thank you. Feedback is very important. So I don't stray too far from what we want to achieve. So this is where we are. This is what you should have on your scene now. I'm moving around with my middle mouse button. If you're on your trackpad, can your two fingers on your scene, and you can see around, and look at what I've done so far, right? This is what I've done so far. Now we are building a diamond, right? So this is the midpoint, and you want to build the bottom part. How do we do that? You just as you might have guessed, we press on E and Z, and we move down, move it down. You can see I pressed E and I pressed Z so that I can extrude it on the Z axis only, the blue one. So you can see I press my left mouse button to accept changes I've made. And this is what we have now. But it's not looking quite like a diamond. And that's because we need to scale it. And to scale, we need what? S. I press on S and I can scale this. Now, as you can see, depending on how small you want the bottom to be, this is the shape we want. And if you don't want, I feel like it's too far from the bottom, so you can just start again, undo and extrude down and then scale. Once again for the last time, extrude, press Z on your keyboard, extrude down, and then scale by pressing S. You can scale it larger, but because we are building a diamond, if you're building something like the bottom of a lamp, or like a platform, like a hut, or like the roof a roof of a house, you can use something like that. But we want a diamond, so we want to scale it down. So we are here this way, right? And remember what I said, you can fill it by pressing what F, coming here, face, or just pressing F to fill it in a clean way. Press F, and that bottom is closed now. Now our diamond is, yeah, it's kind of formed, right? So this is what you have now. You can pan around your objects to see what you've built. This is your handwork so far. Um, this is what you've done so far. Now we've gotten here. What I'll now introduce you next to are modifiers, right? Modifiers. Now don't worry, we would only use the ones that are relevant to what we want to achieve here. Just like if you want to build out anything, the best way to go about it is not say, well, I want to learn everything. I want to learn, what's this one? Oh, there's a Python console here. Oh, I want to use the Python console. No. If it's aligned to what you're trying to learn, that's fine, but you don't need everything, you need just some part of it. So we are only going to learn about it. Now on this property side, on this right hand side, the properties panel, just look at it very well. Some of them are in black and white. This one is in red, it's in white. What are these things? You can hover over them to see what they are. When I hover over this, I see render properties. What does that mean? Okay, we'll be back. Output properties. Sounds like when I want to render this out. Okay, we'll come back to it. I keep going, scene, world, collection, objects, modifiers, particles, physics, um, constraints, data, and material. I mentioned something. I said modifiers. Seems we passed it on this row, so we come again. All right, world, collection, object, modifiers. So on this properties panel is where you find all of these things. And when I select modifiers, it changes the view. And I see this here. And basically modifiers are basically extra functions or extra features to unlock even more capability of Blender for you. So we're on modifiers. What do I want to do? Um my diamond is too sharp, right? I need it to be a bit soft on the side. I mean, diamonds might be sharp, but not as sharp as this, right? I need some kind of corner smoothing on this part. So a modifier can help me do that, right? Modifiers typically are non-destructive. It means that when you apply, so when you do something to your object, it doesn't change the object on a base level. You still have your object, but you just have extra things attached to it. So what do you want to do? You want to change, you want to make this, smoother. I want to give you some, I want to give this side some smoothness. It's too sharp. So what I do is I go to add modifier, and before you click it, you need to be in first object mode and be on the properties panel. Find this wrench icon or this panel icon, and then you can go to add modifier. Now there are
So we
different
have two
ones.
questions.
Okay.
Yeah, so Abdul is asking if we can just use F to fill. Why do we have to extrude then scale first when we can just select the vertices and fill?
Okay. Good. It's something I'll get to later, but since you asked, sometimes some things may look good or easier to do, but in the end they might mess up your mesh. Like I mentioned, this is a mesh, right? If you decide to just fill from this part, what you don't have is support for that loop. I mentioned a loop going around this. This is a loop, right? If you don't extrude it first, what you are giving yourself is some form of um, problem later on, because if you just fill it in this way, if you apply any modifier to it, your object will look deformed. in a particular way. So while you can do that as a beginner, that's fine actually. But if you want to use this mesh for something else later on, it's important you give it supporting edges, and that's what they are called. So this is like a supporting edge for this part. In fact, I can add more to it, and we'll get to that. But I press R, Control R or Command R, I can add supporting edges. The purpose of supporting edges is to give your mesh, this corner, some support, so that when you apply a modifier like subdivision surface to it, your object doesn't look wrapped, right? So you know your mesh doesn't look all over the place. In fact, to show that, let me show you what happens, right? So I'm going to X delete this part, right? I'm going to select everything and just press F. So I'm going to go add subdivision to it. Don't worry about this. This is just me trying to show you what happens. Oh, look at what just happened here. While I can change these ones, this one now looks different. There's some kind of pinching. You can see, if I let me shade this smooth, you can see there's some kind of pinching. If I add more, you probably see it. Um, let's change to matte cap. Can you see this? So these are some of the problems that arise when you just go ahead and do things, because it's probably going to be easier, because you're going to give yourself give your mesh some problems later on, right? And we'll talk about topology maybe if we have time in this class. It's a simple topology rule. You give your edges some support. So let's go back. So I'm going to undo this, extrude and scale and close. Does that answer the question?
Hope that answers the question I've produced. Uchichi is asking how you did the bottom parts of the diamond. She said she
Yeah,
lost connection.
I just basically, let's delete it. Let's follow our rule now, right? What I did was to, you select the loop, right? Shift and Alt, and then you extrude E and S, and then you do what? You press F to close it. That's what I did. And that's the same way I filled up this top part. Yeah, does that answer the question?
Hope that answers the question, Uchichi. Put down your hand now. Raise your hand.
All right. So let's go back to modifiers. I didn't see any questions.
She said she meant the side.
Which of the sides?
Please, please specify your question. What exactly you're referring to? The second extruded part.
Okay, I'll go over it one more time, right? Um, just in case there are other people who might have missed out on it. So I'll go over it. I'll delete this first part. Vertices, loop select, delete. And now we are back here. So what I did was basically extrude down, right? I extruded down on the Z axis, right? E and Z, and then to extrude like this. And then I accepted it by pressing left button. S to scale it, scaled it down, right? I zoom into it. E to extrude, S to scale it down, and F to fill it up. And then we have this shape here. Yeah, does that answer our question?
Yes, she said you have answered that question.
All right, so let's quickly go to modifiers. Time fast spent. So we go to modifiers, we go to generate. Like I said, explaining each and every one of these things might take some time, but generate helps you. You see, immediately the first one I pressed, they just created another one. So that should give you like an example of what generate does. Generate modifier generation modifiers, or modifiers that are under this label help you generate either more parts or some part of your object. Generate something about the object. Adds specific properties that are not in the original object. So the one we'll go for is the bevel, right? This bevel, we want to smoothen the corners, right? By default, our amount is 0.1. You can hold down shift, right? Put your mouse on this and let it change, right? Hold down shift and drag to the bottom so we can reduce the size. So as you can see, as you drag it up, the size is increased. As you drag it down, the size is reduced. So I'll leave it at about there, right? And then we have segments. Segments is how many of this smoothing size we want. So we have one here. The more you increase, the smoother it gets. The more you increase, so I'll stop at 8. If your computer starts slowing down when it's as it continues increasing number, just stop at a smaller number. My own device is able to handle 8, so I stop at 8, right? And then you can see the diamond looks smoother now, right? Looks smoother, but there are also other ways to make something smoother, right? When you right click on an object on edit mode, in object mode, we're in object mode right now, and you right click on that object, you see different options. Let's stick with these ones first. These three: shade smooth will shade everything smooth. It's going to shade everything smooth, right? Shade auto smooth would only shade parts that have some angles to them. As you can see on the bottom left, it says angle. So any surface that's beyond this angle will be shaded smooth. But this is shade auto smooth now. So shade auto smooth will shade only some part of an angle. Shade smooth will shade everything smooth. But let's keep it as shade auto smooth. And now we have a diamond for us, right? Now let me quickly give you a simple trick that can help you. Um, Remember this tab we mentioned? Let's bring it out. Yeah, it's out now. This is where we can manipulate these properties. And you can also access this by going to this orange one here, this orange tab here, this orange icon here. It's called object properties. This is where you get all these object properties. You can see they look a bit similar. So I'm here. I can use whichever one I want. I can close this, but I want to use this one. I want to use this one here. So in the object properties, I go to Z, rotation Z, and listen to me here. You have to follow closely. I click on this Z axis, right? It activates. It's asking me. It seems to be asking me to press in a number. That means if I press in a number, yeah, the thing is rotated, right? 45 rotated, or I can press R and Z to rotate it. But what I want to do here is I want to give this my diamond a quick spin, right? I want to spin it around to just see what I've done so far automatically. So what I'll do is I click on that field and I press hashtag, right? Hashtag frame, FRAME, and I press /, and then I can press any number like 24 or 16. Let me press 12 and I press enter. It changed to this purple. Something has happened. Something just happened. But when you press space bar, see your diamond starts rotating. Let me undo that. Let's go back to the beginning. So we select on this. We were first at modifiers, right? We go to objects, object properties, rotation on z-axis. Rotation on z-axis. We click on it and we press hashtag frame forward slash and 12. Enter. Changes to this purple. It means you've added a driver, and the driver is like these are simple ways for us to animate what we have. So you press space bar to start playing it, and you can see your diamond is spinning. You can always spin around your scene and you see it's still spinning for you, right? So that's what we have done so far here. Um Akoni, I would like to take questions if people have been able to get to this point here.
No questions so far.
Then we would appreciate feedbacks on what we have so far.
All right. Please, you can use your emoji. Yes, I can see a lot of people. All right, that's good. People are clapping. Lots of thumbs up.
All right. All right. I would assume that everyone is having
Uh,
a rotating diamond
Daniel
now. And
is saying it's not spinning on his end. Maybe it's your
okay,
network. You can check.
okay. Let me start again. To make it spin, you need to get this right, guys. Let me remove the driver. You press, I'm going to reset everything. So you're on 0, right? You press hashtag hash on your keyboard, FRAME forward slash and 12. Don't give it space, no space in between, no space in between, and 12. 1, 2. Look at what I have here. FRAME forward slash 12, no space in between, and I press enter, and then it turns purple. And when I press space bar on my keyboard, start spinning. So this is what we have right now. It's spinning, right? You have a spinning diamond. Now, even much more than this, what we'll quickly try to do because of time is to give you some, you know, how does the diamond look? It should look much more than this, much brighter than this. It should be more colorful than this. And that's where we bring in textures or materials. And where do you find things that are related to an object on the properties panel? So you go on this side, start looking for it, right? Right. Properties. This is the properties panel. We are looking for materials, right? This is world, collections, objects, modifiers, particles, and we keep going down. You can't find it. And then you look at this last one, it says material. Oh yeah, this is where we can add the material to the object. Oh, thank you. Then you click on it, and you're on this space here. This being empty, I don't know what yours would have. If yours has a material like this, if yours looks like this, you can only press this minus because we want to start from the bottom, we want to start from the beginning. Press on this minus to delete it. So you can have this empty space, this empty section. The UI is always good when it's as simple as this, you are able to interact with it easier. You're not overwhelmed. Now we are in this scene, we've created a diamond, is spinning, but if you want to stop, press space bar to stop it, press space bar to start it. So it's playing, space bar to stop, it's playing, space bar to stop. Now, if you take your mouse, like I said, you can always divide this part. If you bring your mouse here, right, in between either of these things, if you take it to the top corner, your cursor changes, right? That way you can divide this whole area into two, because what we want to do now is this scene is almost set. We're almost done with this scene, right? We have the diamond, it's spinning already. What we want to add to it is some, glossiness. We want to make it shine and all that. What you can do, bring your mouse to the top right here. Your cursor changes to this, and then you can click and drag. You see this happen here. Click and drag, and you can divide this area into two. Look at that. Let me start again. Go back. Like I said, you can join right. You can right click on this part and say vertical split. As you can see, I'm splitting it vertically. Or you can go to this top here and drag it out from there. So these two areas are the same now. What we want to do in this second area is to texture our object. To texture an object means to add materials to it. So we have these two. This is the 3D viewport. This is the 3D viewport. But we want to change this to a place where we can, add some material to it. We want to see what's happening here. So how do you do that? Like I mentioned, you can always change these areas by going to the top left always, and you can always look out for what you're looking for here. Although we don't call it, it's not called materials here, but what you're looking for is the shader editor. The shader is how you ascribe properties, some surface properties to objects. The shader editor, this is it here. Like I said, you come to the top left, shader editor, and that's it. You're in this space here. Nothing seems to be happening. Now to give a material to this thing, you press new or new here. New or new here. Either of the new would work. So I'll press new here. Something happens. Something automatically this is added to my scene. I'm going to close this part. I mentioned we can just drag these things out. This is the N panel. You can press N to hide it or show it. If I put my mouse here and I press N, I can hide or show it. So in the same way, I can press N here, N to hide or show it. So I'm on this scene here. This material has been added, but I can't see what it looks like. This is where I can go to the material view. So we are in solid view here. We have 4 different types of views. Don't confuse views and modes. The mode is how you edit the object, but view is how you feel, how you view or how you see the object. In what way do you see this object? Like if I'm putting on a red sunshade and I'm looking at a white chair, right? The chair is going to look red because I'm putting on a red sunshade. So this view transform this or this view part here is how you view an object. So I go to material view. So look at it here. So material viewport shading material. So I click on it, and it looks something like this. You should get something like this. Don't forget your animation will still works. If you still feel like playing it along when you're doing what you're doing, but you have to pause it first so you can keep it still. I don't want that. So you can just move around still. The only thing that changes is how you are seeing it. Your object still remains the same. You can still go to edit mode. You can still go to edit mode to change how it looks like. So, but what we want to do is we want to texture it quickly. Let me texture it. We have this thing here. To move around, you can press your middle mouse button and move around, or your 2 fingers on the scene, move around right here. So I'm using my mouse, and this is my trackpad with my 2 fingers. This is my mouse. Now, this is quite a lot here. I mean, all of the rest are being minimized, but it's still quite a lot, right? Base color means that what color do you want this object to look like, or what color? So you click on it, and you can see as I select any color, it changes on that side. Watch what's happening on the left while you're doing something on the right. You can zoom in and zoom out, by the way. So I want this diamond to be like purple. So you can give it any color you want, whatever color you want, still going to work. So change the color here. As I'm changing this color, it's changing on that part, right? So I've changed the color here. I like this pink. I like this pink diamond because um, it needs to look as attractive as possible. So the next option we have here is metallic. How metallic do you want this object to look like? 0 means no metallic at all, just no metals. 1 means the highest metal possible. So I press 1 here. It means, as you can see, it looks metallic here. If I press 0, no metal. I press 1, metal. You can always go in between. Like when you drag your mouse, press down, click and drag on this area. You will see you can increase, and you see how it increases here. Up and down, up and down, up and down. So I'll keep it around like let me see, zero point 0.8 should be fine, or I can say 0.85, right? Or if you like whole numbers, you can just say zero point 0.8. Zero point 0.8 also means 0.8. Roughness means how smooth or rough do you want this object to be. A diamond is quite shiny, so it means you'll be going down. Down means, I mean, the lower you go, the shinier the object gets. As you can see here, if you move around the scene, you already can see, you can feel that, diamond energy all over you, because it's as shiny as it gets. So I want whole numbers, right? I can just say 0.1. Is it shiny enough for you? If not, you can just go lower. I can say 0.08. Choose whatever values work for you. These other ones, we will come to it later, but index of refraction, objects have index of refraction, right? Especially shiny objects. But we don't want our diamond to, have any of those things, because diamonds are transparent by default. But I don't want that right now, because there's going to be a lot of maybe a lot of problems later on. So let's leave this one, right? Alpha means you want it invincible. As you can see, it's basically you can't see it, because if I press 0, the object is going to be invincible. It's still in the scene, but because the alpha is 0, you can't see it. If I press 1, it means it's visible now. Now I can see it. So anytime your object disappears and you're testing, always check if you have this lowered. Now there are other ones that we might not be able to get into, but there's one I want to show you. Transmission is how you make something into glass, right? I can press 1. 1 means that it's fully glass, right? It's a old glass now, but you can't see it because we've added metallic to it. But if we reduce this metallic now, you can see it. You can see inside now. It's glass, right? Now there's something wrong with our object. You may not be able to tell. There's something wrong with it. The way the light is passing through it is it's quite weird. Look at this part. The light is coming from the top, but the bottom is really shiny. You can say, oh yeah, it's glass, of course. But I want to object. So what I'll do is go into edit mode, and I will introduce you to what we call recalculating normals. In 3D, your normal is where, or is the angle at which this at which any surface is facing. So this face is looks like it's looking up here, and this one is looking down, right? So to recalculate normals, you press A to select everything, right? As you've learned, press Shift and N, Shift and N to calculate the normals. Right? It's going to show you something here. Or you can press Alt and N to say flip. You have more options here, but you can choose to calculate outside, calculate inside. And then we are back here. So we want the metallic back on. Let's put the metallic. I don't want a glass diamond for now. There's a mix of that glass. You can see through it, but not necessarily very much. If you say something like 0.5 metal, you possibly would get like a best of both worlds, right? 0.5 and say 0.5 here. Maybe it works. Now, another thing we'd like to do to this object is surfaces are usually not perfect in the real world. They have scratches or they have some texture to it. And we can try to add that to this object, right? Even though it's a glass, it still needs some form of texturing. That's where your normals come in. So we've been working with what we have since. Well, now we want to do what we don't have. How do you add something in Blender? Shift A would get you something. And we are asked to search inputs and all of these things. Don't worry about them. Only focus on what you need. If you want to continue from here, you can continue. But if you want to just take a pause, you are fine with this what you have here. That's fine, because I don't want you to get to the point where, because we're almost rounding up, and I don't want you to get to the point where you mess up your mesh. But if you want to quickly follow along, I press Shift A. I search, and I search for noise. SE. You see noise texture here, and I select If I don't want it, I press right click. But if you want it, left click. So let's start again. Shift A, search. This was the last thing. That's the last thing I searched for. So it's going to be here, and I have it selected. So I connect this normal. I connect to this fact input or this factor input, and something happens. Looks weird. My object is looks destroyed, or something happened to it. No, nothing happened. What we need is to convert this blue input to this white input. So in Blender, if you see, green inputs are for shaders, yellow inputs are for color, blue inputs are for normals, while the gray inputs are for values. So I'm going to add a bump. I'm going to press Shift A, and I say bump, B-U-M-P. Bump is going to add some kind of, roughness, a bit of roughness to the surface. So when I add bump, I'm going to select this and add to the height of this object. Now my object looks like this. Don't worry, nothing happened, right?
There's a question.
Yeah.
So Ganir is asking how to reset the interface in case you run it while dragging.
Dragging like this,
I think that's what
or
he's asking.
okay, if
Like,
you want to reset it to what you have before,
maybe he has scattered the entire interface of Blender and he has messed up
yeah,
the panels and everything.
yeah, it's fine. So you can right click on your items and close them manually. I don't want you going into areas where you probably don't understand unless you are able to. I'm going to save this object now. Control S to save. Right, you can save this before you try anything, but the simple way to do it is to right click on them and join right. As you can see, I'm back in this scene now, but I'm gonna change it back. I think this is what it was referring to. Maybe you did something like this and messed up the whole scene. What you can do is I can join up because I want to join this one with this up here to, you know, reset my scene. So I join up here, and then what I can do is horizontal split. So I can have this here and then bring back the outliner here. You can see my scene here. Feel free to mess with the UI as much as you want, but we are back to this.
Okay.
All
So
right.
Felix is asking, how do I activate the shader view?
All right, the shader view. There is an icon. If you go scroll to the if you're on your mouse, you can, if you use your trackpad, right, your two fingers scroll horizontally, right, on it to the right, to the right, you'd have these four spheres on this side. You can see them here. It's the third one here. And hover on it, you see material preview. The solid mode is what we've been working with because we need to see our mesh properly. But now we want to see how it looks. So we use the third one. So the third one here. Does that work?
Hope that answers your question, Felix. I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so my own question is a bit more advanced. I just want to ask, how do you maintain topology while modeling? Well, that one's a
Okay.
bit outside of this class.
Yeah, it's kind of outside of this because I'll answer that when I'm trying to wrap up. But quickly um to edit this object. Like I mentioned, if you don't want to go through all of this, you can delete this and just start from the beginning. But you want to have this roughness to this object. So just follow me quickly. Enter 50 here on scale, right? Enter 50 on scale, on strength, on distance. Enter 0. You can start from 0.002, and you can see your object surface now. It's looking something like this, right? You can see the object surface. Let's shade smooth. So you can see you can increase. So the more you increase the number on this scale, the smaller these grunges are going to be. So I can say 100. You can't see it because it's literally like twice of the current size, but it's there. If you want to see it again, you can see let's say like sorry um it is 100, right? This 100 still too much because diamond need to be smooth unless it's something else you're trying to do. um I can say 400, right? Now it looks like it's too rough. Then you come back to this distance and then you reduce the number further, 0.001, and now you see what it looks like. It's shiny, but it has this imperfection to it, so that when you zoom in, you can see those detailing on it. Now we have this material preview. Your this thing still works. It looks shiny in the material preview, and then we can go finally to the render preview. Let's set up our scene for rendering. I want to add some lights to the scene. Um, because of time, really run out of time. So what you do next is add a plane, Shift A, plane, G to grab, move it down, right? S to scale, scale it wide, right? Tab to edit mode. You select edge view, and then you move this up. You extrude and you move up. Let's go back again quickly. Shift A, plane, G, grab, you move it down, S, scale, tab, edit mode. You select these two, or you select edge mode, same thing, and then E, extrude and move up. Now you have this like backdrop, because like I said, you're a photographer, so you want to put your object in the scene and you give it a backdrop. So you can let me see. So there's something you can do to smoothen this corner. We want a very this might be fine. You know what? Let's leave it this way because of time. Move this up, right? And it's in this scene here. Now we have a background to our scene, and then we have our object. So you're like a photographer now. You're placing the object in the background. You're placing the object at the front. This is a camera here. We'll probably want to move it to we want to align it to what we are seeing, right? I press X to delete. And there's another view. Now you can view these things from any angle by moving around your mouse, but there's also another way. When you press this tilde key, when you look at your device, your laptop or your keyboard, the numbers at the top, there is there's a key used to enter approximate icon or approximate symbol. You can press it. It's called the tilde key. When you press it, you get this pie menu here, and you can view from the top, from the front, from the back, from the left, from the right. So when you press the tilde key, you can move your mouse to whichever one you want. Press left, and yeah, you're there. So what we'll do here is press this tilde key, front. We want to look at it from the front. Right from the front, you are looking at what we have here, and so we are looking at what we have here, and I'd like to add a camera to this scene. I mean, you may have a camera before, but you can delete those. Delete those. Let's add a new camera to the scene. Press Shift A, and you move your mouse down. You see camera here. Add camera. Camera has been added. Where is it? Look at it here. Look at it here. I'm sorry, that's speaker. This is the camera here. So let's start again. I'm looking at it. I'm looking at the front. I'm looking at the front view here. Shift A, camera. So this is the camera here. This is the camera here. So just like a photographer, you want to see how these things look in the camera view. So what do? I go to I look at it from the camera. There's this icon here. You can look, you can view your object you're seeing from the camera view. And what you do is you press, you click on it, and then immediately moves you out. You can toggle it. I can go in and go out, go in and go out of it. So I want to move this camera so I can prepare this view. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. You can do everything else outside, but I want to move the camera. I press on this. When I'm on the camera view, I see this lock here. It means I can change this. And what that does is that when I try moving, when I try zooming out anything, it doesn't happen outside. It happens with the camera. So it adjusts the camera for me. So that's what I'm doing here. So I'm trying to adjust the camera. You can use your middle mouse button to adjust how you want it to look like. You can zoom in to make it wider. And like I mentioned, every object has different properties. When I come to the right here, I can see the properties of the camera. Don't concern yourself with everything else for now. Let's concern ourselves with the focal length. Photographers will understand what focal length means. It means basically in this way, how close enough do you want this image to look like when it's with the camera? The lower you go, just drag on the scene. The lower you go, the closer it's going to look like. Now you're not moving the camera. What you're moving is the focal length. So it's going to affect how the object is going to look like. So you see how stretched it looks when you move it down, and when you move it up, looks moves closer. So what I'll do here is I'll click on this and I say 180. 180 looks too close. And what I do, I can leave the camera mode and look at my camera here. I mentioned you can always use your action keys like G to grab, how to rotate. Now I want to move this camera away from this thing. It seems too close. The reason why it's long now is because we, increase that focal length. So I press G, I press Y to move it back. I move this. This folder is fine. And I go camera again. If it still doesn't work, you can always move it. I move it back once again. And now it's like this. You can click on this. The icon needs to be locked. If you want to edit things in the camera view, I hold down Shift. As you can see, my diamond is still rolling. I hold down Shift and I have it here. And I move my middle mouse button. Or if you hold down Shift and use your two fingers on the trackpad, you can move how you want to center it. Or you want to move it to the side. Maybe you want to have a text. You want to have text on this side. So you can do that. So I want to center mine. Shift and I middle mouse button. And you can see we seem all right. Right. So I'm going to extend this view that I divided the other time. Please, if you want to edit your camera, if you want to edit how your camera, the position of camera, always leave this lock, leave it locked. But if you want to just, you are done with it, you don't want to mess up the scene again, just unlock it. So now you can do anything you want. It's going to leave the camera view, you can come out the camera view, and you still have your scene intact. I'm not done because my object is not centered, so I'm going to still move a bit. Try doing that on your own end and see what results you come up with. In fact, you can decide that you don't want it from the side, you want it from the top, you know. So camera view, we are in this view now. Like I mentioned, we can always change this back to the 3D viewport. So we want it this way. I want it this way. And I can always change it to solid view. So you can see now it's changing. Now, one last thing we need to add to our scene is the light. A lot of these things can be covered in different topics entirely, right? But I would like to keep it, very simple for now. Press Shift A to add a light. You scroll and try looking for light. This is light here. You see light here. Add an area light called area here. And we have an area light in the scene. You can zoom in and zoom out. When you click on your light, you can grow the size. When you come to the right hand side, you see size here. The properties panel, you see size, you can grow it. As you can see, you can grow the light, right? I need to pause this animation. I don't want this thing to keep rolling. If you are playing anything, you might not be able to edit the size of the light. But if you pause your animation, you can select this light and grow it this way. So you have a light here. Now to see the impact of our light, we go to the rendered view. It's the last viewport shade in here. You select it, and now you're in the rendered view. You can see the our scene is, I don't know, doesn't look good to me. Maybe it looks good to you so far, but we need to light our scene. We need to give it some illumination, and then we'll take our light. You can always take it and position it anywhere. But this is what I want to do. Now, On the right hand side, the properties panel, there's something we call constraints, right? Constraints are what they are. They offer some form of transformation lock to your objects. So I click on constraints, add object constraints. What I want to do is add track to. I want to track this light to the object. So I don't want to keep moving the light, because the typical way of lighting your object is to move the light. Oh, you move it here, oh, it's fine. Oh, it's not fine. You kind of look at it from this angle, you say, oh, it's fine. Oh, it's not fine. You try to do all of these things, this gymnastics, and it takes a lot of time. So what we want to do is add a constraint. So you select object constraints, track to this eyedropper tool, you select it and you select the diamond, right? And now you see the light is always going to be pointing at the object wherever you move it to. Look at it. Wherever you move it to, your light is always going to be pointing at the object. Now, we want to light our objects. We've done this thing about we've added a lamp, but light doesn't look good. Doesn't look like what I've seen. How do we start? Some time ago, I mentioned that to start your scene, you need to start with pure darkness, because that's literally how the world was created. So start with pure darkness so you can see the impact of your lights. So how do you do that? This red icon here is called world. Your world settings. So I come to world here and I click on color. I want to remove the color of the world. I don't want any color. I don't want any light in the world. I want just darkness so that I can start adding my own light properly. So you can click on this and change it to black. Bring this down. The lighter you want it, take it up. If you want it darker, you take it down. So I want it darker. So I can start with my own lights. Now I have my own lights. I click on the light again. Click on the light. Come to light properties. Now the power is the strength of this lamp. How bright do you want it? How bright do you want it? So I'm going to select like enter like 100. Let me say it looks like. It still looks. I mean, it's not looking bad. When you look at it from this part, maybe not looking bad, but it's not the perfect. It's not the perfect way. If I play the animation, just it's too flat. Okay. Now something about lighting is that unless you've been instructed by your art director or by your lead designer on how you want on how they want lighting to be, a lot of the time it's always left to you. You're always going to be the one determining how you want your light to be. Lighting can determine how a scene is going to look like. You want it joyful, you want it playful. So this scene, I want it bright. I don't want it dark. So one thing I'll do first, um, I'll try increasing the lights much more than this. Let's say like 500. Now I'm increasing the lights. Things are looking up, right? Things are looking up. Go to top view if you want to move the light, right? You can always adjust these lights. Um, Depending on where you move it to determine how you want your light to be like. But I'm moving this light here. Can increase this light if it doesn't look good enough. Can say 1000. 1000. Still looks flat. Let me go back to 500. So this is going to purely on your own taste and maybe basically design principles, because design principles also apply when you are working on 3D. I mean, the principle of contrast works because what's our major object here? The diamond. This is our background, so they shouldn't be the same color. That way, we apply the principle of contrast to an hierarchy to our scene. So what I'm trying to do here, just trying to figure out what lighting I need to use. So I can place. I retain the position on the right hand side, and I come to the first item here, render properties here, and I come here to enable ray tracing. Ray tracing is going to give our light some form of just better view. I come back to the lighting, right? I select shadows. I select jitter. Jitter shadows would give your shadows some smoothness. So you can keep making changes to the light to this lighting setup. I'm very interested in seeing what you come up with, because lighting is a different ball game entirely, and because it's usually the last item on your scene. I wouldn't like for you to have any less. So I'm going to open the file that I actually had created before now, so you can see how my lighting looks like. Should I save this? Please save your scene. I'm going to save my scene. Press S. um, press S, and then you have, I can save it as class, enter. It's saved now, right? But I want to open one of the scenes I created before so we can take questions and then wrap up. Class diamond, and this is my own scene here. Same diamond as you have, and you can see my own scene. I have, let me show you what I have in the scene. So I have this backdrop here. I have about 3 lights here. One, two, three, and four. Wow. Okay. So you can have many lights, but I used to advise, you know, for the purposes of beginner, being a beginner, maybe you can get away with adding many lights, but it has to be done in specific ways. As you can see my background, you possibly won't be able to tell that it's a curved surface because it was very important for me to have something on the bottom to bounce the light. Lights can be reflected, so shiny objects um don't like direct lights like that. So you have to light them indirectly, and that's why we have some of these other lights around to just create some balance. So that's what we have in the scene. You can take a screenshot of what I have on the scene right now, so you can recreate this light. The major light here. This is the setting here. Maybe I will share this file with you guys, so you guys can have a view of what um lighting is. But this is basically, sorry, basic. It's your basic entry into Blender, and with everything I've shown you so far, you can do a lot of things. You can try creating a lot of things with it, and I'd advise you that don't just try to know. I want to know the app because, I mean, I don't know who you are, how brilliant you are, but the team behind this is very brilliant, and they've added a lot of features to it. But what you should approach, how you approach this is approach this in project format. Have a goal. Oh, I want to create a cup. If you want to create a cup, it means that the first object you add on the scene will be a cylinder, right? And then you can look for how you create the cup. No, it's a cup, already a cup scene. So you know you have to delete the faces here, and you can see you're already moving to cup region now, right? So you should approach things from project perspectives, so you can, you know, chart your own course, so you can see what you need. For example, now there's no reason for me to use geometry nodes when I can already use drivers to rotate this thing automatically, right? I don't need HDRI in this scene because I already set up my lighting properly. I don't need any extra add-on to create this simple scene because I have a goal in mind. I have something I want to create. So your project is going to determine what you're going to end up using. Sometimes you may not even end up needing the animation timeline here because what you're creating just a still image. So please, um, it's not just enough that you take this class, but also you go back to go and practice something, and you practice based on output and projects. That's the extent to which I'll be able to, you know, um, how would I say, teach for now. And I would appreciate questions and feedback right now.
All right, thank you very much, Shay. This was a great class. If you guys have any more questions, please put it in the comment section. Let's give Shay a round of applause. Thank you very, very much for this class. Felix is asking, the noise destroyed his model, so he's asking how you can get it back to the regular shine.
Or I'll share my screen
And
again too.
someone else is also asking how to render.
All right, I'll share my screen again. All right, to render, you need your camera in the scene. Quickly, I'll do that for you. Let's do that. Let's try this now. So quickly, after you position your camera, you have your camera on the scene. I want to position it this way.
Someone else is also asking about the noise too.
Yeah.
So the,
Yeah,
and the
I'll get
bump
to
map.
that. I'll get to that. So you have your camera on the scene. I'll delete the old camera I have here. Make sure you have this one camera and right click on it and say set active camera, right? So you can move these things properly. And when you're done, this is not what I want, but to save time, um, you go to the top, left, you see render here. render, and you say render image, click on it and say render image, or press F12 on your keyboard, and your device, your scene should start rendering. So let's see what's going to happen here. So this is my
David, please
scene now.
put your question in the comments. Sorry.
So this is my scene now, right? This is my scene, and I think it's already rendered. You know, there's a lot of things we can do afterwards, but right now it's rendered now. So F12, or you press render, click on render and say render image. Now, for those of us who have issues with the noise, let's go back to this. Let me destroy my scene too. I'm going to destroy my scene by adding this material. So let's say your noise texture destroyed your scene. Let me add the noise. I'll add the bump. Connect this. I'm going to connect this. What you can do is press X, click on one, press X, delete. Click on the other one, press X, delete, and you'll be back to this. Does that answer your question? Hello? All right, you answered the question. So guys, that's all we have right now. Yeah, thanks for showing up. If you have any questions, you can shoot me on my socials, and the discount code is still on. You can try out what I have, and we'll chat some other time. Thanks very much for showing up. I
All
see
right.
you later.
Put the discount code. What's the discount code?
B101. B101.
Okay, B101. All right. Thank you very much, Shay. Even as someone who has been using Blender for a while, this has also been a valuable class for me as well. So thank you very much. Thank you to
All right.
everybody for attending and joining the class. The class has been recorded, so you guys can get it afterwards. All right.